on some, is it you got requested here?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit previously about reporting to the city and things like that. I want to bring up for discussion, not being necessarily prescriptive, though I put down items that I think would be beneficial. I've had some input from other aldermen on what they'd like to see. So just kind of standardizing reporting, cadence, content, all up for discussion. We'll see what everyone else thought.
Okay, so what I'm gonna say is a lot of this stuff is readily available. I don't think in my years as alderman, anytime I've requested any type of this information from any one of these departments or groups or people, or whatever, that I was, denied that information.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of it does go out regularly. So,
And I'll agree, there's a lot of this that is on here in part because we get them from disparate sources though, and bring it all in one report each month or one message each month. One that can be published for the residents. Hopefully we streamline reporting from the city staff side as well as the alderman and set an expectation. Some of it is not being currently brought out, but as the city clerk highlighted, there are some of them that are available that just weren't sent out before. She sent out a list of or a report that I didn't realize existed on number of permits that are issued in the city and the surrounding areas. Incredibly helpful for us for context. So those are the kinds of things that I'd like to see just on a monthly cadence, every other month. I'd like to get some feedback from the city on which these items would be appropriate for monthly, which would be quarterly, and then.
well, city permits or licenses and that are annual.
I think what the alderman's talking about is the Office of Community Development for St. Charles County sends out building permits. It might be monthly or quarterly. I don't recall when he sends them out, but yeah, anybody that signs up for his mailing list
They're not.
gets that. But yeah, we can forward that on as well.
Hold on, Kim, you got something to say? I mean, okay,
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
monthly.
right. The Director of Community Development of St. Charles County sends that out. Yeah, we'd be happy to incorporate that in and pass it along.
And I want to highlight, just because I want to make it very clear, I'm not talking about this because I think anyone in the city is efficient, not in the least. City staff, as the mayor has pointed out, has always been very happy and eager to fulfill any requests for information. It's been amazing. Our staff is amazing. Just looking for something standardized instead of being in multiple units.
That also being said, and like whenever I call and ask for any type of report, I get it on a regular basis immediately. The thing I worry about is how much additional work and time is this gonna put in on our staff if they have the time to do all these things on this list. Well, I mean, some of the things on here, I mean, I say you can go and look in. There was one thing that I did inquire about, and that was something I'd like to see. It doesn't have to really be in the written report. It's something I'd like the mayor and the city administrator to bring to us, would be just inquiries about our city on a business day, whether it happens or don't happens or whatever. Just any inquiry. Just interest. Building or doing something.
Well, some of that stuff is confidential. Most of it is at an initial meeting when we
Right.
get, requests and that. So until a real estate agent, a property owner, a developer, someone, they come quite frequently, but it's closed session confidential information. They don't want it out. So if it is, then we will definitely put it out.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's asking for confidential information here, but I can certainly see like financials for sure, like having some sort of monthly report on it. And then I think it's what, we already get like court reports and it's more so, it's not that we aren't getting the info, it's that we're getting it in 5 different emails. It would be
Yeah.
great if we got it all in one. right?
Yeah.
It's like, here's the monthly report, bang, 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 everything's in one place. Don't have to go and hunt around for it. And then I would certainly ask the question next, like, if there are things in here that are easy to do, it's like, oh yeah, that's like, if we're sending out a monthly report, takes 30 seconds of somebody's time to type in the 1 second sentence there to do it. Yeah, somebody says, well, it's gonna take somebody on staff 3 days to pull that information together. Probably not that important just to have monthly, or, maybe it's something quarterly or annually. I think but it's more about that. For me, I think John, you agree, would have been extremely helpful over the years. It's like, we had all this stuff in one email every month. So, yep, there's the February info. Bang, it's in one place.
Yep. Yeah, that's not a problem. I think, one thing I would like, and maybe we can do, we can just maybe plan. I don't know if really hard to say what the right tempo is for, because it kind of depends on how much interest we've shown, or on the economic development side, but we could always try to plan a closed session on a quarterly basis or something, just to kind of go over things. There's a lot of things that don't come to fruition. There's a lot of things that just are really exploratory. People doing their due diligence who are, maybe not even have a contract on a piece of property yet, but maybe they're about to put down earnest money and they want to ask a couple of questions right before they cut that check, to put a contract on something. So some of that stuff we, keep close tabs on. Other stuff, we know it's fleeting. So, but maybe we can try to plan like something quarterly that just talks about this, we're at with that, because those things, they are highly confidential for obviously people developing or purchasing the land.
Can I ask so my thought on this, a lot of this would not come directly from city staff putting it together, but we outsource a lot of stuff, so we expect that to already be sent, and that basically sent from those, for example, IT, tickets open and completed and outstanding, just checking to see how much activity is coming from our vendors, and what the issues are. They can send out a report automated from their ticketing system. I know what ticketing system, so that could be an automated report that comes out, it's just attached. The other one is, as far as economic development goes, which you were just talking about, does Next Site have something that they sent us?
So we have a program, and that's not a program, it's a site that we call Basecamp, where all of our reports and all of that stuff kind of goes to.
Okay.
There's so much stuff on it. I think there's been a few times where I've downloaded a few things and sent out to board members when they've requested, but it was one of those things, we only have one access to it. I have to double check. And unfortunately, I just need some like a link out, because I tried to do that early on when we had this conversation, but certainly if there's any information or particular information that we'd like to download from that, I can go onto there and see what maybe I can pull to give you at least a taste of what's going on, and then go from there. But we can obviously talk about that.
Do they provide like an executive summary or anything like that?
Not on a regular basis, not on like a request. And we have conversations back and forth, both on, in particular, parcels that we're looking at, some ideas and needs, vendors that they either have connections with, that might be coming into the area, places like Slim Chickens, or, some of the Slim Chickens, is that, or Slim's? It is Slim Chickens, I think. There's a few different vendors. So like when those guys are coming into the area and they have those connections, we communicate back and forth as to what parcels we think might be a fit. And they make contact.
You
But
mentioned,
I don't have we don't get like a monthly report on that. So
yeah, you mentioned that there was a different cadence from my desires with this. If they only offer that quarterly or every 6 months, that seems a little bit long, but I would just match up with them so that there's no excess burdens and stuff.
I think you also want to look at like which things, to me, like I look at like, okay, what are board level items versus administrative city things? There should be good, right? So like finance is obviously good. Community and special events, well, we all should know what's going on in case we get asked about it. Obviously some HR stuff. Like when I look at like the IT thing, tickets open, completed and outstanding, like to me, it's like, that's not a board level function. That's an administrative function to turn on. If you want to report on it, great, but at the end of the day, I don't really care. It's their job to make sure the city staff and city systems are running well. Now, if there's a problem, of course, that's data when they come and say, yeah, we need better IT support, we need increased budget or whatever. I expect you to bring that data to back it up and be like, show me there's a problem or show me what the problem is. Now, some report on a quarterly or annual basis of overall state of IT. Tell me every systems are running well, we don't have any issues. Public Works, I think, is one that's probably still more administrative, but I think it's important for probably the board to know what's going on there. Just because, well, we're the ones that get calls and there's cracks in the street and everything else, and like, you want to know, and you also want to know if you're like planning for budget purposes, do we want to look at increasing budget in these areas to address some overall issues? I think that's where I'd sort of look at any item and be like, is it really a Board of Alderman function, or is it, am I curious about it? In which case, if it's an I'm curious about it, well, ask. If it's a board level function, it's going to help influence policy or legislative decisions, then yes, you want to do.
I would tend to agree, and specifically, so there's a lot of awareness. It's tough to keep up with because we're not here in the city day to day. So having this, for events or issues that were raised through Public Works, like those are really great points. And I think for me, it's really just an awareness. So it helps us do our job better. And the financial, anything that has a financial tail to it as well is really obvious. I mean, ticket management for IT systems. I could go either way on that, but really, I think something that helps us understand, okay, the money that we're approving and where it's going to be spent at a very high level. But I would also say too, like, as far as the amount, to Alderman Johnson's comment, I wouldn't expect, at least from my, and I can't speak for everybody else, but I wouldn't expect a novel under these. I think I see these as bullet points and updates and just a couple, one or two sentences, depending on here and there, whatever the updates are. Nothing, super in depth. I wouldn't see this as taking a lot of time. And I can't remember the last time that I had a job where I wasn't required to submit an activity report, and so having that kind of rolled up and collated at some level and a high level, that seems to me like just standard business practices. But again, just for this, just very quick summaries and collation of a lot of other different reports into one, artifact instead of emails kind of filtering through and having to go, oh, I saw that email on the economic development. Let me go back through 2 weeks ago and try to hunt it down. I'll just go to the report. It's going to be there, and then it makes it a little bit easier.
Absolutely. One of the things I was going to mention, and something that we've been working on for some time, and I think now that we have an in-house planning and development manager, we've been working on an in-house dashboard really on the status of projects. How that'll look on a public level, I think that's maybe the other thing would be to try to make sure we have some sort of public, some sort of public facing version. Obviously, the in-house one is, where they're at in the development, but was the application submitted? Was the plan submitted? Was the fee submitted? People don't need to know all that stuff. They probably don't care, but at least to know where you're at on that, right? We're at the area plan level. This is the next meeting date at the final plan level. So we'll try to take that, what we're creating for that, what we're trying to perfect for that, and then make sure we have a public facing one, so that maybe we have something like that on our website, so that when people, don't have to wait for a meeting or an agenda, but you can say, like, I wonder where this is. Hope I can go on the city's website and see where everything is. We've already planned on doing that also in Stump Road as we forward that as well. Once we get an idea of construction schedule, that's going to be part of our conversation, letting people know road closures, kind of construction activities, lane changes. There's going to be some sections that'll be completely closed, detours. They're already in the process of planning that. We've been getting our detour. We have to actually get detour permits from MoDOT, so we've been getting those. So once all that's planned out, we'll put that information out too. So I'll work on putting those kind of dashboards in there for you too, so that you guys know that. But then I think it's also good to just have a constantly updated, publicly facing dashboard for those things too.
So if I could summate or consensus, my desire, see if if there's consensus of the board, I'd like to see the city administrator take this list back. Put together an outline of what we can there, anything that he can't, and just notate that for us. You know, for example, what like with the with the dashboard that's being built, you say, you know, it's hard to get right now, but in 3-4 months, we should be able to do this a lot easier. And then just at the next meeting or the first meeting of next month, give us a rundown of what you can and can't.
I will definitely, I'll have you, well, it'll be a draft, but I'll put together real information, obviously. So we'll put together, just a trial run of what this all would look like. I'll get an idea of what that time, what the timing is as far as what kind of time it takes for staff and everybody to put it together and then report back. We'll just plan, you said the first meeting in April.
I tend to, for me, ask the person doing the work to give a estimated time, whatever.
We've already been going through this, knowing that this conversation was going to be had, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Awesome.
I also say on any of these that are listed here, if there's a metric or item that's actually a better indicator of the state or health of things than anything that's listed here, like, feel free to say, oh, here, I think what you really want to know is this, right?
Right.
Work orders open, completed, and outstanding. Knowing completed is great, right? Knowing how many you completed, but at the end of the day, like, is that a number high or low? I don't really know, right? So, and open, if there's 10 open, it's 10 high or low. I don't really know, right? So it's like finding that right balance of like, oh yeah. But our business, when I get my monthly board report and it talks about our support team, which is probably the closest analogy to the public works side. I don't get how many open bugs they have. I get customer satisfaction ratings and completion percentages and the percentage of bugs that have not necessarily.
That'd be great. I will, like I said, I'll make sure that anybody who's involved in staff wise can give their input as what they think is the best data point to provide you guys. I have nothing else. I just have homework.
Good at that.
We'll, come up with something. Like feedback.
Perfect.
Hey. Anybody got any concerns, anything was brought up on the regular meeting agenda?
Actually, one just more questions since we're here. The sidewalk easements.
So the HOA president is here. We can ask him an hour later if you want. I know I was giving him, I told him to come to this meeting, give me the update. I was told the checks are in the mail, but by the developer. I don't know if the checks made it to the houses.
So we
No offense to the US Postal Service.
So I assume, and the real question is, I assume we want to wait on that then until.
Mr. Mayor, would you want me to answer that question? Or we can kill this issue now, or?
If
Plenty
you,
of time.
do you have an answer? Would you care to? Okay, go ahead.
Public comment section, but
Got
maybe
time.
that's
Go
fine.
ahead.
We got time.
Yeah.
We got time.
Let's go through it. All right, so the developer promised that each of the different residents would receive their compensation. That happened yesterday, but there's still one component that is missing. One of those pieces of ground that needed to be deeded over and easement change concerned the association itself. And the association was supposed to receive a forgiveness of a promissory note that was created by the builder and his 3 board members at the time that they were controlling the board. That portion has not been resolved. We have not received the necessary paperwork in order to forgive that. So I was going to ask this evening if that second reading would be held off till they do what they're supposed to do, because there's really not a whole lot of other options that we have other than to hold them to their promise. Any questions?
Yeah.
Got it.
I have no problem with that.
I'll have someone say this. Got some. Yeah. Up to this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it.
Yep. Right,
That answered my only question. I had on.
okay, we'll move to staff communications, city attorney,
I have nothing, Mayor.
city engineer.
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to just congratulate the city and everyone on the reclassification of Bear Haven Boulevard. It's in, it's a staff recommendation to East West Gateway. Very rarely will East West Gateway go against their staff recommendation. So that's really good news for the city. We will have another eligible street, which means we'll obviously get help in fixing Bear Haven in the future, which is kudos. It's really cool and happy for the city. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the county highway department on marking repairs to be made over there on Brook Lane, that area off Weldon Spring tomorrow morning. They're going to start doing some work. James and I have been working with the county, Ted from the county. So that's good news. There's going to be some work starting over there to repair, pave those, that subdivision, which we're getting about 56% of the work being paid for by the county, because part of those houses over there are not in the city. So they're paying their share, we're paying our share. And then lastly, the bridge deck on Henning, we've been pushing to see if we can add that to our grant application for the gap. I think you all are aware of the TAP grant that we received for Henning Road. It's great, but there was never any county road board participation in the TAP grant. That was strictly 80-20 federal. So this county road board grant that we're working on will allow us to go after that gap. And I think we've reported about $207,000 that we're going after. We're also going to go after the cost to repair the bridge deck. That's, if you looked at it closely, when you drive real fast, you can't see it. But when you look down on the actual bridge deck, there's a lot of cracking occurring. It's my intent to go after the cost to add coating the bridge deck on that to again help with future maintenance costs. Because if they're
Coating bridge deck
yes, sir.
with asphalt.
No, it's a process that MoDOT's been using. We're going to use the same process. I've been monitoring many of these applications. It's a company that has developed a process to coat very thin layer on top, and it is working fantastic on all the bridges that I have been monitoring. Missouri Research Park DAC, bridge DAC, I've been monitoring that for about 8 years. It's working fantastic. So I'm going to add that into the road board grant that we're going after for the TAP match. We don't know how that's all going to work yet, but Amanda from the road board, James and I have been working with her, and Sarah, they basically said, well, you keep asking about it, go ahead and submit it. So that's what we're going to do. And so those are good things. That's all I have there.
Okay, thank you, Tom. City administrator, James.
So, in the spirit of what Tom just brought up about the federal grants, I did want to bring up, and I think it was Alderman Whitman and Alderman Costello brought some information about some surplus monies that were being made available through some federal transportation grants. The name of the grant at this point escapes me, but just so happened that Tom and I met with the road board shortly after receiving that information and began a discussion with them about going after those federal grants. We were told the road board, or St. Charles County, I should say, did go after some of that money and was turned down. We were advised by St. Charles County that they suggested we just don't even try for those grants because of the criteria involved, the focus area of those grants. toward a different demographic, area. It's not really for more rural or more urban, not us in the middle. So that was kind of the criteria that they found out through their process. And so they've given up on going out for any more of it. They said it was extremely laborious process, only to learn that we weren't talking about you guys, basically, when we put this money out. So
Safety and.
keep them coming. Yeah.
Really, really big.
But, keep those things coming. Like I said, we try to run them down anytime we can. And Tom and I we're hoping to get some help from the road board on that. And Amanda even said, look, if you want me to come tell your board, I'll tell you, don't waste your time. I said, well, I'm sure they'll take our word for it. So we're always happy to look for free money if we can actually get it. So the other thing I wanted to bring up to you was the concern that was raised, or at least it's been raised offline. I know it was started to be brought up at the last board meeting about a house on Dandelion Court, right there across from Old Orchard and Dunvegan. There was a car that had slid into the house during, I guess it was the snowstorm several Fridays ago. One day messy snowstorm we had. We went over there to look at a few different options on how we can help out, and we're still discussing that. But one thing that stood out to me immediately when I drove over there was, and I think the crux of the real problem with that intersection is, there's no stop sign. So when you're coming down Old Orchard, because the first thing that myself and my staff, my public works director and I went over there, he said, well, if you would have been coming to a stop at this intersection, you would have slid into those pine trees. Why'd they slide into the house? They would have to have been turning while doing that. Well, it's because it's not a stop sign, there's a yield sign. So people are coming down that hill thinking, hey, nobody's coming, I'll just turn left. And they keep on turning and sliding into their yard every time. And this time it actually hit their house. My recommendation would be that we look at having a stop sign put in there at the bottom of Old Orchard at Dunvegan and not a yield sign. And while 90% of the time, I'm sure a yield sign is fine, because on to the right is a cul-de-sac not far away, so you don't have a lot of traffic. To the left, you probably don't have a lot of traffic going to the cul-de-sac. But on any time that it's snowing or even raining, you take that downhill too fast in that turn. I mean, this is why they said that people keep ending up in their yards. They didn't understand why. I said, well, if you really look at that, that's why, because there's no stop sign. If you're stopping or trying to stop and then going, nobody's gonna end up in their yard. So if it pleases the board, it's I can send out some more information as far as the actual intersection. All of those have to be determined by ordinance, so we wouldn't be able to just do this. Can't just order a sign and throw it up. All the stop signs, yield signs, all of that's set by ordinance in our city, so we can put it on the next agenda if you would like. But I would encourage you maybe just to go over there if you want to drive down Old Orchard where it tees off into Dunvegan, you see what I'm talking about.
No, not too fast, not snow.
Well, the resident was confident that they felt they were pretty safe until at least November, unless there's a freak snowstorm, but.
Well, the good news is it sounds like the HOA is gonna put some boulders in place for them, or they're gonna sort of sponsor that. And with that, there was any idea if we're able to use some of our equipment to help them move those boulders, or relocate the boulders that they have, set those in place. I think that the HOA is taking ownership of it, but they've asked the city for some support. And I mentioned the email as far as use of our skid steer. I feel this would be a good use for it. We don't have to pay anything additional to use it. It's more some of our city staff's time to go out there and coordinate with them. Is that something that we were able to do?
So I had a conversation with the homeowner today, something that we're still talking about the legality of, but staff's already been over there to kind of plan out what we would do if we were able to do anything. We wouldn't be able to do anything that's not in the right of way. We can't go onto private property and perform any work, even if it's seemingly charitable in nature, because it's for an individual homeowner or an HOA. But yeah, we're still having a conversation. Sherry, the homeowner I spoke to, she's very happy with our response at this time, but we're going to try to continue to work with them She did feel really good about the idea of the stop sign, especially after we kind of talked out what's been happening. She kind of explained that this is a regular occurrence of people at least going into the yard. It's the first time anybody's ever hit their house. But as far as this kind of taking a wide turn and sliding off and, giving them a lawn job, that's evidently happening. And that's probably going to happen in the rain
I
too.
mean, I've probably only driven in there less than a dozen times, but I think I've stopped every time at the bottom of that, not even thinking like.
Well, I did too. It wasn't until I was leaving, I actually went down, I stopped, I turned, when I was leaving her house, I happened to notice the sign was a triangle. And I go, what? Then I went and did a UE and came back in, I go, that's not even a stop sign, that's a yield sign, but it's a red yield sign. So I just looked at it and said, oh, stop, right? But it was not
So there's no stop signs on Dunvegan.
there's no stop signs on Dunvegan either, but as you can see. Oh, well.
Would it also
Yeah.
be,
The
Appropriate.
cul-de-sacs.
James, would it also be appropriate to put a sign at the top of the hill saying stop ahead? So
We can do
people-
that if we decide to put a stop there.
Yeah, I'd like to put on the agenda. I
Or
mean,
slow for ice.
People ought to know that, you're going down a hill and there's a stop sign at the bottom. Let them know.
We put a stop sign at the bottom. And
Well, first we have-
Officer sits there for a week, everybody's gonna.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you authorize a stop sign there, I mean, we can put up,
Yeah,
the city staff, we can put up other informational signs. It's just traffic control devices have to be set by ordinance.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can put warnings. We could even put up a sign that says, be careful during, steep grades, slick during icy conditions or something.
On a Boulder Sea.
Except for the resident who hits them, and then they're gonna be really angry too, so.
So we will have that on the agenda. We will have that on agenda for next meeting.
If it's the board's wish, I'll have that on the agenda next meeting.
So stop sign.
For the stop sign.
Mr. Mayor, may I also ask for consideration for another stop sign location? Bates in McClure. That area where Red Hawk, I believe, is. My son lives off Bates Road and the Bates actually makes an L turn and doesn't
Right.
turn into McClure until
Right.
down towards Henning.
Right.
But I couldn't tell you how many times I've personally tried to make a pull out and the people that are
So
coming.
you want to stop people on McClure?
Yes, sir.
Ooh.
Yeah, I
call
know.
Bates, but I mean.
I know, but it's,
Yeah,
On the McClure
right,
side.
right, but I mean,
I know
I
it's
mean-
Bates, but it's,
where it intersects into Bates again, that becomes McClure.
But there's
Becomes-
there's a stop, there's a freeway stop. road.
Yeah,
if we're talking stop signs, that's a very dangerous because people are coming and it's hard to see without pulling far enough out of Bates.
Talking about the.
And it actually was discussed with the road board during the grant process. They were,
Mhm.
because some of our safety things that we're adding to the Bates Road grant application that we did, that was discussed as something that should be looked at for the future.
well, we'll,
Some kind of three-way stop right there.
we'll, put it under consideration. I know when it comes to stop signs, people that live in those areas don't like them, and they're the ones that get the tickets. you
I
know?
understand,
So,
but it-
but
Just a stop sign.
it,
Where do we end in O'Fallon put seven? Where do we end right here in O'Fallon put seven?
pretty neat where.
not until you go into Wing Haven there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I drive that.
Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out. which
Right.
roads
Yeah.
right there, too. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not sure I completely agree with that. I mean, I drive that a lot. It's an awkward intersection, but there's a coming south on Bates, it approaches Red Hawk Parkway and then the turn into Bates. If anything, I could see maybe because there's a traffic circle right around the corner. I could see potentially looking at doing some kind of a traffic circle there, but just a full stop sign, because there's a stop sign up the road there. It's what
Put that in the grant.
is there a safety issue? Like, what do you?
Well, the people that are on the Bates that is the L part, the bottom part of the L of Bates. So basically the extension of McClure. They're going very fast and it's very difficult for people to make sure they're looking this way. And by the time they look that way, the people come from Red Hawk. It's, again, it's,
What's the speed limit over there? It's 35?
yeah, but I mean,
35 in Darton Prairie and 30.
I thought we fixed that.
it's,
Didn't change.
it's a little bit awkward for sure.
Yeah.
And there's been several times where I've started to pull out and I've seen other people do the same thing. And then I'm like, oh, somebody coming pretty fast down that heading south on McClure. Cause it's kind of a hill. So anyway, just something for you all to consider.
I think it's worth a look, sure.
So when you say they're coming fast, that sounds like more than the 30 miles an hour or whatever.
And I couldn't tell you exactly, but maybe 40.
Do we have well, my questions would be, we have a speaking problem there that we need to go.
I don't know if it's speeding problem. It's just, it's awkward from a sight distance issue as well.
I know that.
We'll research it.
Just maybe all of you can take a look at your convenience.
Yeah, it'd be worth going just watching the traffic flow there. I mean, I know how it is driving. And how fast I drive, it came to fast and people.
And it's really, it's the
Could
challenge.
be high.
Most times a day, they pull up and it's like, yeah, nobody's here, I'm going. But a couple times a day. There can be a lot of people.
Mr. Mayor, I have one last thing that's is traffic related as well, or at least road related. So as I think most people know, the mayor and myself really been working both with MoDOT, members of the state legislature, trying to get some support for improving access to town square area. Even though we've gotten legislative support on this, MoDOT and the Missouri State Highway Commission actually calls the shots on those sorts of things. So if you don't know how that works, it's, yes, they can put it, and the legislature can fund it, the highway department, and the Highway Commission can say, well, we're not building that because that's not what, we're in charge. There's been a lot of conversations about issues with federal highway department and their standards for building intersections and interchanges from system to system, the system being 364 onto 64. And so we've run into a lot of roadblocks. I know the mayor has kind of got one last expert that we're going to, and we're really hoping that that might yield some support for this change. I will tell you, I just wanted to share that same meeting I had with Amanda Brower and John Greifsue at St. Charles County, talking about this intersection. And we went through the last decade's worth of attempts to improve that interchange.
access the town.
Yeah. They told me pretty clearly that that there is an expectation that there's going to, on their long-term plan, to revisit that entire Cloverleaf Loop interchange between 64 and 364. But they expect that to happen sometime around 2040. And that they said that the most likelihood that anything is ever going to change in that area for us, either additional on-ramps, off-ramps, or loops, overpasses, flyovers, et cetera, that will be evaluated, and they expect that to start happening in 2040. So
what happened to the conversation about 20 lives? But not.
well, again, this is one of those things, when you talk to legislators, they said, yeah, we'll put it in the budget. We've got line items for you. Highway department's been,
Appropriations for
Yeah.
it, but then we got our eyes schooling when we were in Jeff City from, what was his name, Ron
Representative Mayhew.
Mayhew,
Yeah, he's the
who's the,
transportation appropriations
Transportation guy.
chair.
and he said, what it all comes down to is MoDOT. So we went over and spent.
He's a
what,
retired MoDOT guy too. He hates MoDOT.
at MoDOT, and basically MoDOT told us it's not going to happen. Well, we've got one last attempt here. There's a particular engineer who is very respected by MoDOT. He's designed systems all across the state. And if he sees, if he can, he'll look at it. I'm gonna ask him to look at it, and if he comes up with anything that, the big issue is safety more than anything. The distances that they require for exits and stuff, it's a big safety issue. And he said, you know, or anyway, if this guy sees any kind of way it can happen, he will let us know and hire him. We'll then go down to MoDOT. He said if he goes down and presents it, he said we got a very high probability it will happen if he's got a solution. So that meeting, I was hoping this week, but one of the people involved's in-laws, some serious car accident. So they're dealing with that right now.
The question, sure, asked, but was the original design not safe with the flyover and everything that stubbed out?
That original design was rejected by MoDOT because it wasn't safe. One, and the other one was the design was to be a through way from 40 to, you know, Steve Hellman was explaining this to me a couple months ago and saying that he even tried to get him to put it in, and they said no.
But where it's stubbed out, it was stubbed out without actually being.
Yes. Yes. So,
I mean, ultimately, some of the problems that, you know, we've kind of come up with was when we start talking to them about what we want, and then they talk about what they're incrementally going to do already in the future. Their biggest concern is conflicts. And so again, that's why it comes down to John Graves, who said, look, their long-term plan is they're going to have to redo all of those other changes, probably around 2040 is what they're estimating, because of growth, the growth in traffic, people out here. And so at that point is the most likely opportunity to get some sort of access. Otherwise, we're going to be cutting across. And yeah, you could get some cut across into the town square, but you're talking about $25 million flyover ramps, which they're not doing, and we don't have the money to pay for. And they're not going to do it anyway.
Right.
So that's the crux of where we kind of got stuck.
Should we be talking about signage then? Signage out there?
And that's
absolutely, yeah.
that's the route we're still going to go. And
Yes.
that's what we're budgeted for.
yes, and they recommended that.
When would we
Yeah,
start this discussion?
So we had a long conversation with them about signage, the 3 different signage programs that they have. So that's the conversation that we're going to have. That's along the highway. Unfortunately, some of the signage programs we don't really qualify for. So like when you go down the road, you see those brown signs that say like historic St. Peter's this way. We don't have historic Garden Prairie downtown. So they won't put up one of those brown signs for us.
No problem.
Maybe we could do that. We would have to really start looking at, for some of that stuff, we'd really have to start having the businesses over there engaged and having those blue signs. That's the actual like retail commercial signs that MoDOT puts up that says, you know, Target this way, Schnucks this way, you know. it's not-
How about just changing the Hinky Drive off-ramps
That's-
into technology?
we had-
Yeah.
We had that conversation too, and that's a conversation we are continuing locally, but we were with the deputy director of MoDOT, you know, or whatever, so. Well, yeah, that was a big point of contention, and of course, they said, they pushed it off to the local guy and said, you guys gotta figure that out. So,
What about monument style signs? I think memory serves correct. Winghaven has some kind of fancy monument looking signs or signage around some of the ramps. We do anything.
if you have something like that, I'd love to see it, because, I mean, because the options they gave us, they were very strict about, like, this is the way MoDOT approaches our right of way signage outside of billboards or anything like that, which that's always the other option, right? Is to go onto private property and look at some sort of billboard access or something. There's nothing that precludes us as a city from erecting those or
Maybe that's,
participating in that.
that may be something that public can also assist with. They see anything on their travels that looks like a good sign or precedent within Missouri roads and wants to send it over to your alderman, that would be very much appreciated. Lots of eyes out there.
Hey, Alderman,
In our directory that's out there and stuff, does it list all the businesses and restaurants and all that? City?
mm,
I was asked by a homeowner association about, is there some place that we have? Because I was talking to them about shopping in our Darting Prairie Schnucks and not the one on Fallon and stuff like that. And they said, well, we didn't know that. And is there a place that something lists all the restaurants, businesses and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Lots
is
of.
there something to get that out? I mean, maybe post it or send it or do something? I
It
mean,
was on the website. It was-
To encourage-
wasn't on-
I'll put on the website to encourage people to shop and that in the city of Dodging Bay.
Check on that.
Facebook as well.
we can
Spot.
put it on,
We can put something together.
Yeah.
like that. I don't know if it's all condensed somewhere that we have access to that or. You know. Cause I'd like people to do their business.
Oh, there's a business directory in the list. Oh, it needs to be on the website too.
We'll double check all that.
if it's not, we can. We're actually having discussions right now, or just no discussions, but emails with Revive that host our website as far as website upgrade, update. And supposed to have that yesterday, but video. Possibly tomorrow or Friday. We'll bring that up. Okay, well, my thunder was stolen on the off ramps, so that's all been discussed, so. Anyway, got a motion to adjourn the work session?
Second.
Got a second? Keith, all in favor? Okay, the work session is adjourned. We'll come back at 7.
Probably shouldn't be. We put in. I mean. I got a list of, all the people that they sent this to, so they sent it to Jesus, which we're gonna send a letter out to. I just want to know the intersections. I mean, we're going to do. We're gonna do. I was gonna do a bunch of data, and now I got back to the only how much. I don't know what to speak. Oh, I don't. Yeah. So, we're gonna go back and do it, we're gonna put it down. I just, they're trying to find out. Stop. That's right. It's a person being given. Like, as a resident.
We
He's the person that plans to. He wants to make it, to cut it closer. County. Put all their rooms.
They're not governed by anybody. I know, you know, it's not, get on that board. It's not a paid position.
But no, they're all really. People that are on there, they're all.
They're also the run this own program. The legislators can do
It's up to you.
They don't want to do anything. That's the first my own step. The joint legislators are.
The basics of guardrails.
I know.
Fences, fence, it'll be outside, down by a street, it'll take us here.
That's a sad and then should be like, you know, it's
They call it supplementation.
right, but the problem,
We're trying to like.
the problem is, we can't get to that before. Right, so unless you're gonna get a lawyer, which costs you more than your damn car. Right, but it costs you more to do that unless you're an attorney or have a friend. And that's how they do it.
Some guys like not trying to save myself. Sad boy. I told them, oh my God, you see somebody recording.